Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're back with Kurt X-Trad from the Toxic Traditionalism video that we did a few months back. And so this is sort of an addendum video, kind of sharing a little continuation up to date of how things are going with Kurt and his family, and a particularly significant event that we wanted to invite him to share about today. So please welcome Kurt. And Kurt, go ahead and let us know how things are going.
Okay, so I'm just going to backtrack a little bit that when my ex left 7 years ago and then 6 years ago, took the youngest 4 to Phoenix, I always was nervous and that something was going to happen to one of those children. And so they were, I'm trying to think, they were like, 6, 12, and 14 and 16. At the time. So the oldest one, she met a good guy down there, and she is married in the church and has 2 children. That's gone just fine. The next one has been not doing too well. She put 2 of the youngest 3 in the SSPX school down there, which is an absolute joke and a half. They don't have any good programs to help any kids. And matter of fact, both the girls were being groomed down there.
Oh no!
And it's one of the priests was doing some texting and that kind of thing, and then he was moved to St. Mary's, Kansas, did the same thing there, and is now out of the country. They got him out of the country to Australia, but his brother was just indicted and pled guilty to molesting his own niece, who's also a priest.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Church Militant. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. So any people that want to doubt me, good luck. So anyway, so then she pulled them out of the school, but not before hanging out with certain families there. There's a lot of bad families in that church down there. And so the second daughter, she was ended up kind of running off with one of the other students who was, actually his family was in California, and my ex actually let her go up there knowing that he was going to do something to her, and he did.
Oh dear.
And then they turned around and got married in the church, and not in the church, in this site in the court. I think they were together maybe a year and a half or something. Well, now she's dumped him, and she's with a guy who she goes to clubs with, where they take drugs and come to near death, and then come out of it.
Wow. So you're not in communication with her? Are you in communication with her? Or you hear about it from your other?
I have a little bit with her, but I hear it from the others. And actually, all my other kids are opposed to this. To this guy, her being with this guy. They were opposed to her being with the other guy too.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. These are all SSPX losers. Okay. So then the next one, Claire, who was 19, she was. My ex let her hang out with a drug dealer from SSPX. His parents are illegal aliens. He's an anchor baby, him and his sister. And the guy has got a rap sheet a mile long. And so far as what we can see, okay, so what happened was on the evening of May 2nd, he came into the apartment. Still not sure who let him in. That's all kind of gray right now. It's all under investigation right now. And she OD'd probably on meth.
Oh no.
With this guy. And then my ex let the guy in the next day after my ex found her dead, to have him clean up the mess. Basically to cover people's tracks.
Oh.
You see, because you always have to cover for an SSPXer. You always have to cover for them.
Wow.
So,
God.
but the police have already are involved, and he was on parole anyway for some gun violation. And anyway, this was probably the worst news I've ever had in my life.
Oh no.
The poor girl didn't have a chance. She was 19. Um, so I went down there. Nobody knew anything of what to do. I went down there. I stayed with my other daughter and her husband and children. I went and did basically all the arrangements. The Trappist in New Mallory Abbey and up in Dubuque, Iowa, donated the pine casket, the traditional casket,
Oh.
and I was able to the funeral home and the cemetery. The diocese has their own, everything down there. But I made it very clear that the SSPXs, they have nothing to do with this funeral.
Yeah. I'm amazed that you
So
got
a
away
priest
with
friend of mine, yeah. So well, they what were they going to say? They had no idea what to do except they were trying to get SSPX, and I put my foot down. Actually, the rest of my family agreed with me about not having SSPX.
it. Okay.
So some of the other kids. So that was an easy one. I had a priest friend of mine who's in the ordinariate and stationed in
Mm-hmm.
California. He's an Air Force chaplain. He flew down at the funeral for us at the funeral home.
Oh.
So, yeah, so it was Catholic burial rite in the ordinary form, and with the burial at the cemetery, and picked out some good hymns and all of that. But I had not seen her for 6 years, and so I saw her. We had a 30-minute visitation beforehand. Her own mother would not go into the room for the visitation.
Oh no. Yeah,
My
that's.
family is so screwed up. Yeah,
Oh,
so
Kurt.
screwed up. And she has showed no emotions over this at all. It's just a matter of covering everything up.
So, how did your daughter get to know this guy or get into drugs in the first place? Because you told me she'd been clean for several months before this. So she wasn't using anything until he showed up again. Okay.
She was until he showed up again. And of course, my ex
Okay.
likes him and likes his family because they're SSPX.
Oh,
There was
wow.
another couple from SSPX was there with their two daughters who are transing into boys. And then there was a Sedevacanta seminarian that showed up. They had been in her class, who is a out of the closet homosexual.
Okay. Wow.
It was the whole thing was just bizarre. No, and the whole reason for her taking them down there was to get away from me, so I can't have any influence on them. And like the oldest of those four, who's down there, she says, "Dad," she said, Mom took us away from you. When we needed you the most, we needed a male figure in our life, and she
Yeah.
took us away from you, and it's been absolutely catastrophic ever since.
This was interesting. You said that CPS had been called in like in the fall of last year because they
Yes,
found that she was
yes,
doing
and they are
drugs.
involved again now, of course.
Okay.
2 weeks before this happened, CPS had cleared them because she was doing so well and everything, and went through this program and all of that.
Okay.
But now, of course, as soon as they got the police reports, they're involved again, and I have spoken with them. Well, they contacted me.
Yeah. Right.
And they got. But the thing is, we don't have all the reports back yet because there is such a problem with meth down there and drugs because of the whole border thing. They're like 6-7 weeks behind. So it's been, I forget, it's May 23rd, and we still don't have the reports back.
Wow.
And that's going
Yeah,
to
that is
determine
really
that's going to determine who goes to jail and all kinds of things once those come back.
okay. So then
Yeah.
your one remaining son who's still at home with your ex-wife, he looks
He's
like
actually with me
able to get.
He's with me right now. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
He's
So
with me
that.
right now. We'll see where this all goes. I want to, see what the reports are, what action is taken, how they determine
Right.
the death. So it basically come down to two things. Either she was like talked into committing suicide by this guy, or he just put it in. How can anybody blame me for this stuff? You know, it's already come back, you know, from SSPX. Oh, it's ultimately your fault, Kurt.
Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
live there. How's it my fault?
Yeah, right. No, it's the blame game that they play, and they do it with
It's
other
the blame game
victims.
again, and they're evil. They're absolutely pure evil. Her mother doesn't care. It's just, as she said to me, she said, "People live, people die. That's life."
Wow, about her own daughter.
So,
Wow, that's just so strange.
and so my big question is now, who's next? When I
Are you
see
just
what
haunted? I
when I
mean,
see what the next daughter's doing, when I see what the next daughter's doing, it's a matter of time.
yeah. Oh no, Kurt. Yeah, we just gotta pray because that's what will save things now.
So
And at least you have your son. I mean, that's the grace that God brought out of this, was that he is safer with you now.
I don't
Sharing
know.
that.
To lose a child, I can't even explain what it's like to lose a child. You can't even, until you actually experience it. You don't even know.
Yeah. Well, and this is the worst kind of way to lose a child, because you don't even really know what happened. It was sudden. It was awful. It's like she wasn't sick.
Right,
You had no
right,
time to prepare, and she's just gone. And you were going to see her in like a month or something, right? You hadn't seen her for 6 years, and then in like a month
right,
or two, you were going to
right,
get to go visit
right,
her finally.
right.
I mean, what else? What else is going to be thrown at you? I hope this is the worst and the last, because how can, I mean, only by grace can you endure these kind of things. You've already been through so much.
Right.
So,
This
yeah.
seems to never end. So I know there's others that are going through terrible things too. So I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I hear so many stories of people who were once involved with the SSPX.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just
Your
they're
story
not
is just
traditional.
a
They don't even know.
representation. Yeah, there's so many stories like yours, but we just haven't got them all in the air yet. I mean, you're an example of so many other broken families,
Right.
terrible incidents. So people may listen to this and think, how can this even be true? I don't believe it. And it's like, well, you can't just let yourself off the hook like that, because you personally are one person who know many other families in similar situations. And so this is just an example of many. And people need to know that this is happening.
When you get involved with a group like that, the fallout is like never ending. And as
Right.
I said before, I'm not saying that every single trad is a bad person, you know.
Yeah.
Well, not every trad is an SSPXer either. So, okay. And there are people that are, you know, are normal.
Right. It's
But
true.
you have to be in the church. I believe that when you're out of the church in a situation like SSPX, you're going to have nothing but problems. The only way you might not have problems, or you might be able to cover the problems, is with money, because it's just about money with them. It's a whole prosperity gospel mentality, you know.
When bad things, awful things, and scandals happen, people will say, oh, well, that happens everywhere. And it's true that it can happen anywhere in all groups, and it
Yes,
does. But the
yeah,
incidents, when you talk to people who know, people who are involved in victim support and, helping to repair situations like this, and for lots of people in traditionalist movements, they're saying it happens with a much higher instance rate in traditionalist movements than it's happening in other places. That's why it needs to be made known. And the SSPX, I mean, there's already been news coverage, and that's just, a bare fraction. There's so many more stories that are on the way in. They're just waiting for enough evidence to be able to, put them up publicly. But it's like, it's happening at an alarming rate in the SSPX, in sedevacantist groups specifically, and then in some of the groups within the church, the Institute, FSSP. It's not
yeah.
like they're the only ones, but there's obviously a problem because of how bad it is and how
Very
often this stuff is
systemic problem. Yes, but see, they answer to no one. Who do they answer to? If
happening.
they're not in the church, there's no overhead at all.
I had
And
a good comment the other day that said, if the SSPX is really in union with Rome, why does their authority end in Switzerland. Like that's
Right.
their highest authority, and then that's it.
But even that situation was that Father Jackson in the fraternity. Of course, he pled guilty and all that, right? So, but there was even somebody from his old church in, excuse me, in Denver who got on Christine Niles' Facebook page and put a comment saying, "Well, okay, I accept that he did this, and it's terrible and everything. But you have to also understand that he used to be a Novus Ordo priest before that, so that's probably why this was happening."
Oh, well, how convenient.
Yeah.
Well, oh, wow.
So she's like, so the Novus Ordo's the boogeyman.
Yeah.
For all of it.
Right. Well, you got to shift the blame again.
Yeah, it's all shifting the blame. Yeah. But this is how they think. Now, again, not all of them. But it just seems like that this mentality metastasizes when you get involved with this whole operation.
Right. I agree. And I mean, it makes total sense.
And then you just become angry all the time. See, this was how I felt. I was angry a lot. I don't think I was as angry as a lot of them, the ones that I run into, but I still had a certain amount of anger. And I'm like, I don't need to be angry because the stuff I'm angry about isn't even a real thing. So it's like the last couple of years, 2-3 years, well, a little longer than that, the anger has gone away.
Wow.
Because I'm not fighting a ship that's not sinking.
Well, I mean, where is anger in the fruits of the Holy Spirit? If we're looking for fruit, I mean, there's such a thing as righteous anger. And I recently ran across a St. Thomas Aquinas quote about it can be a sin to not be angry when you should be angry about something, because like there are times when you need to be, but you can't live in a constant state of it. It's toxic.
No,
and so
it's toxic.
Yeah,
absolutely
right. Otherwise, it would be in the Bible. Like this is a sign that God is working in you. If you're angry all the time, it's like nowhere. You can't find that anywhere.
But I literally have SSPXers blaming my daughter's death on me.
Wow, that is just insane. It's just so weird. Yeah, I mean, you've been out of the picture for so long, not even allowed to see her. You're not making any decisions for that family.
No, but they're just saying if I had just been obedient and gone to them and made more money and all of this, and none of this would have happened.
I'm sorry that you're getting flack like that for something that is so awful for you to go through, and then they make it worse by condemning you for it instead of just mourning with you. We're supposed to weep with those who weep, not to go beat those who are weeping.
Right.
Gosh.
I mean, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, what I've been through.
I mean, you're holding up so well and doing what you can for your son. It's very edifying, and I'm grateful for your example and your willingness to share and talk about this, because it's like the hardest thing. I mean, what's harder to talk about or to go through?
It's like anything my ex and the SSPX is involved in turns into a tragedy of some kind.
And there's not really a good support in place for families. I mean, the SSPX wants you to go there, but what do they provide for you? Do they provide counseling and, help for all your needs and encouragement and, a healthy environment and encourage families to stay together? It's like, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing that they're out for themselves.
For themselves, they provide nothing. They don't help anybody. They're a hindrance, if anything.
It's really a problem. So people need to know what they're taking their families into if they're going to get involved.
Somebody was just telling me earlier today how in one of the sermons in St. Mary's, or several of them, they're telling people not to go see the movie The Freedom.
Oh, Sense of Freedom or something? The one about human trafficking?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom.
They're telling people not to go to it. Now, what are they hiding by saying that?
It's a true story. It's like, it's inspiring. Oh my gosh.
I say that they're saying it because they don't have any problem with abuse, and they just don't want to call attention to anything.
Right. Well, because maybe people will get a clue from watching that movie and see some of the things that the society is doing that they shouldn't be. Exactly. Interesting. Yeah, I was talking to some friends of mine who had left the society one day about how when the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose came out, the SSPX priests were all like, oh, everybody should go see that movie. Go see that movie. And I was like, weird. I mean, that was like, A, it wasn't even very true to life. Like they really messed with the story.
No.
And then B, it was terrifying. And it's like, why would you want to put that? But it also portrayed the priest as a victim. Like everybody was down on him. And so it's like, again, it's playing into this over sympathy, like this clericalist over sympathy, and making him look pathetic and putting people in fear of the devil. And if you do this, this can happen to you. And it's like, well, yeah, like there's a healthy fear of sin. But what kind of a culture are we promoting here? I never heard a priest recommend that movie to me. But I mean, okay, I'm Novus Ordo, so I guess that's why.
That's just part of their cult behavior.
Okay.
I'm 100% convinced they are cult.
No, we just had one of our Trad Recovery site members put up a paper that they just finished on is the SSPX a cult, and it's great. It's on the website. You can go read it on the resources page.
I have seen that. I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to invite him to maybe do a video about it and just kind of talk about it a little more in detail and let people know because I'm glad someone's finally sitting down, putting pen to paper about this and really lining it out, drawing the picture for people, because you can deny it all day long. But if you have all the signs and this dysfunctional behavior and outcome, then the facts are betraying you.
I sent it to a friend of mine who's got away from them. They were more like me. They were never like 100% SSPX, but they got away from them. And I sent it to him and he shared it with his older boys. And they're like, yeah, it's all true.
Wow.
What was in that report, the cult thing you were telling me, so I sent it to them, and they all responded back to me. They said it's all true.
Yeah. Well, I know he did a survey before he wrote that paper of as many people as he could get his hands on, asking them questions. Am I on the right track? And then he was able to put the paper together based on that. Was there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up the video? Any other experiences or reflections you've had?
Was pretty much it. It's been really hard. So, and I'll get through it. Grace of God and sacraments, and be faithful. So,
well, we're praying for you, and we're really grateful for you, Kurt. Thank you for your example and for giving us your time and coming on today.
Thank you.